Henyard says she is endorsing a new board, but not announcing who they are just yet, instead promising to name them later this month. Henyard is under investigation by the FBI.
Thornton Township and Dalton are in shock after Mayor Tiffany Henyard, who also serves as township supervisor and calls herself the super mayor, was arrested by federal agents today. This comes after years of controversy, including accusations of corruption, bad leadership, and actions that divided the community for months. There were rumors of an FBI investigation into Henyard for misconduct, abuse of power, and questionable decisions. While people suspected trouble, few thought it would lead to an arrest so suddenly. This marks the end of years of growing evidence and concern about her leadership. The news has left the community stunned and divided. Critics, who have long accused her of selfish and reckless behavior, feel justified by her arrest. Supporters, however, believe she is a misunderstood leader unfairly targeted by political rivals. During her time as mayor, Henyard faced criticism for spending on personal luxuries and hiring an unqualified police chief. Despite this, she often ignored her critics and presented herself as a strong, groundbreaking leader. Now, her arrest shifts the focus from political arguments to legal issues, raising serious doubts about her leadership. The community is struggling with mixed emotions: shock, anger, sadness, and uncertainty. Critics see this as justice, while supporters think it's a politically motivated attack. With her future unclear, Dalton and Thornton Township face a leadership crisis. Henyard's bold image as the super mayor is now overshadowed by legal troubles, which may damage her legacy forever.
At 6, embattled Dalton Mayor Tiffany Henyard is mounting a re-election bid. Henyard made the announcement in a
To understand the dramatic fall of Mayor Tiffany Henyard, we need to look at the events that led to her arrest. From the moment she took office as mayor of Dalton and Thornton Township supervisor, Henyard's time in leadership was filled with controversy. Her bold and unapologetic style quickly made headlines, with repeated accusations of corruption, misuse of taxpayer money, and abuse of power. There were reports of her spending taxpayer money on things like luxury travel, expensive events, and personal expenses, which angered many residents. They felt she was more focused on her own interests than serving the public. Her decision to appoint unqualified people to important positions only made things worse and led to more calls for accountability. Throughout this, Henyard refused to back down, brushing off criticism as politically motivated and claiming she was a leader who was unfairly attacked by her opponents. But the accusations against her kept growing, leading to an FBI investigation that had been quietly building for months or even years. The investigation looked into things like financial misconduct, mismanagement of the township's resources, and possible shady deals, which raised serious doubts about Henyard's honesty. Public meetings became tense, with heated arguments between Henyard and the township trustees, reflecting the deep divisions in the community. Her supporters admired her boldness, while her critics saw her actions as reckless and selfish. This created a political storm that consumed the township. In the end, the bold decisions that once defined her leadership led to her downfall. Henyard's arrest by federal agents was the shocking peak of a situation that had been unfolding for years. Her fall serves as a warning about how unchecked ambition, without transparency and responsibility, can lead to chaos and ruin. For the community, this moment is a time of reckoning, as they reflect on the troubled legacy of a leader whose rise and fall will be remembered in the township's history.
Until 2025, yet Tiffany Henyard has officially decided she wants to stay as mayor despite the cloud of controversy.
Mayor Tiffany Henyard, also the Thornton Township supervisor and self-proclaimed super mayor, was arrested early this morning at her home in Dalton. This marked a key moment in a story that has captured the attention of the south suburbs. Federal agents arrived at her home, and her boyfriend, Kamal Woods, was reportedly present as Henyard was taken into custody. The arrest came after years of accusations and a growing federal investigation into her actions. While the exact charges are not yet clear, sources suggest they include embezzlement, misuse of public funds, and obstruction of justice related to how she handled finances in Dalton and Thornton Township. TO understand the significance of Henyard's arrest. We need to look back at the controversies that followed her since she became mayor in 2012. From the start, her leadership was bold and attention-grabbing. Henyard didn't just want to be the mayor. She called herself the super mayor, a title she proudly displayed everywhere, including on billboards and social media. Her face appeared all over Dalton and Thornton Township, but some people thought she was using public resources to promote her own image instead of serving the community. Despite accusations, Henyard remained confident, calling herself the people's mayor and brushing off criticism. But the allegations of financial misconduct started early in her term. She was accused of spending taxpayers' money on personal luxuries and questionable expenses, which caused public distrust. Her bold, defiant style also led to conflicts with trustees and residents, and public meetings often became heated. The federal investigation into her actions had been quietly building for months, focusing on possible misuse of township funds and attempts to avoid oversight. The investigation revealed serious concerns about her handling of taxpayer money. One of the most shocking claims was that she spent $43,000 in a single day on Amazon, buying luxury furniture and other expensive items, all charged to the township's accounts. This wasn't the only instance of questionable spending. There were also reports of her using taxpayer money for luxury travel and personal indulgences. Another controversial project was the $2 million skating rink, which many believed was built without proper approval. Critics felt it was more of a vanity project for Henyard than something that truly benefited the community. The rink was only open during events she hosted, which added to the criticism that it was about promoting her image rather than serving residents. Despite defending her actions as efforts to improve the community, Henyard's financial problems and accusations of reckless spending caused growing dissatisfaction among residents. As more details emerged, board meetings became more tense, with people demanding answers. While Henyard's supporters still praised her leadership, her critics pointed to the mounting evidence of financial mismanagement as a major issue. This set the stage for the federal investigation that led to her arrest. Henyard's dramatic fall from grace marked the end of a leadership that was once praised for its boldness and ambition. The South suburbs now must deal with the fallout from her downfall.
The arrest has sent shockwaves through Dalton, Thornton Township, and the broader region, leaving residents to grapple with the implications of the charges and Henyard's legacy. For some, it represents a moment of vindication, proof that the long-standing allegations against her were not baseless. For others, it is the tragic end to a leader who promised to break barriers and connect with her constituents, but ultimately became a symbol of unchecked ambition and the dangers of a lack of accountability.
As the federal investigation continues, the community is left to reflect on Henyard's rise and fall. Her time in office will likely be remembered not just for her bold leadership, but for the financial mismanagement and personal indulgence that damaged her reputation. The ongoing investigation will decide if Henyard will face criminal charges, but her reputation has already been tarnished. Her downfall is a warning about the dangers of unchecked power, the need for transparency in leadership, and the lasting effects of financial mismanagement on a community's trust in its leaders.
Prevented Supervisor Tiffany Henyard from filing a vacancy on the board. So what is going on and why the...
Tiffany Henyard's leadership style, as controversial as her spending habits, became a major part of her time in office. Right from the start, her leadership was marked by frequent clashes with the Dalton Village Board of Trustees, which made her time in office tense and turbulent. Meetings often turned into arguments, with trustees accusing her of overstepping her authority. In return, she accused them of trying to sabotage her. One particularly chaotic meeting saw Henyard storm out after being heckled by both residents and trustees, shouting, "You all should be ashamed of yourselves," before leaving the room. These moments painted her as a leader who saw herself as under attack, fighting not only her critics, but the entire political system. Henyard's combative approach extended beyond board meetings and became part of her public image. She often used social media to voice her frustrations, attacking her critics through fiery Facebook Live videos. In these online rants, she called out people by name, accusing them of jealousy and trying to bring her down. In one of her more dramatic broadcasts, she called her critics enemies of progress and promised to expose every one of them. Supporters praised her for standing up to her opponents, while critics questioned whether it was professional to use public platforms for personal attacks. Some residents even worried that Henyard was using her power to retaliate against those who disagreed with her. There were claims that she used lawsuits, public shaming, and even township resources to go after people who challenged her authority. Whether or not these claims were proven, they created an atmosphere of tension and mistrust, where opposition was often met with harsh and personal responses, while Henyard's supporters saw her as a passionate leader fighting for progress. Her critics argued that her leadership style was divisive, unprofessional, and harmful to the community. The growing conflict in both public meetings and on social media became a symbol of an administration more focused on controversy than on achievements, leaving Dalton and Thornton Township deeply divided and struggling with the turmoil caused by her combative style.
Being wrapped up early because two trustees, as you mentioned, did not show up. Chris Gonzalez and Carmen Carlisle. Without them, not enough board members were present to make official.
As Mayor Tiffany Henyard's leadership came under fire, accusations began to surface that she was alienating important allies within her own administration. Over time, several people who had once supported her, including trustees and staff, turned against her. They claimed that Henyard was concentrating power and disregarding the rules to push her own agenda. Carmen Carlisle, Henyard's former assistant, became one of her most vocal critics, saying Henyard ran things with a my way or the highway attitude. Carlisle said Henyard's actions created a climate of mistrust and disorder within the administration, making tensions with the board worse. The conflict came to a head when Henyard was accused of bypassing the board to make major decisions, such as hiring key executives. One controversial decision was appointing Ronald Burge as head of the Dalton Police Department, despite his state certification allegedly being inactive at the time. The trustees argued this appointment was illegal, but a judge allowed Burge to serve temporarily. Tensions between Henyard's administration and the township grew as some residents and business owners claimed they were targeted by Henyard's office. One business owner alleged his company was shut down for not donating to her campaign, while another said Henyard used the police department to harass her critics. Henyard's former assistant, Carmen Carlisle, who had been one of her closest allies, turned against her and accused her of running the township like her personal property. The betrayal of Carlisle was a major blow to Henyard's reputation. Trustees also accused Henyard of falsifying checks and hiding financial data to avoid board approval. What was thought to be a healthy surplus in the township's budget turned out to be millions of dollars in debt. A financial report conducted by former Chicago Mayor Lori Lightfoot showed serious mismanagement of funds, which Henyard dismissed as a political attack. Despite mounting controversies, Henyard remained defiant, continuing to defend herself in public events and on social media. However, federal investigators had quietly started their probe, questioning witnesses and reviewing financial data from both Dalton and Thornton Township. The investigation expanded to include Henyard's political committee and charity, with allegations of money laundering and misuse of funds. The arrest of one of Henyard's top allies earlier in the year was seen as a turning point, with many believing he had agreed to cooperate with authorities. When Henyard was arrested, the community reacted with mixed emotions. Some supporters expressed disbelief, accusing the FBI of targeting Henyard because she was a young black woman in power. Others, however, felt the arrest was long overdue, arguing that Henyard had been running the town like her own personal kingdom. With Henyard now in federal custody, there is uncertainty about the future of Dalton and Thornton Township. Some residents and trustees are calling for new leadership, while others worry about the lasting damage to the community's reputation. Many feel it will take time to rebuild trust and restore integrity to local government. Henyard's downfall has left a lasting impact, and the community must now deal with the consequences of her leadership.